It is 3:02. We're going to call the meeting to order and welcome to the September Pre-Planning Commission meeting. First thing on the agenda is a consent item, final site plan for Century Link Lumen Frederick. And this is Sherry's. Yeah.
Yes, nothing new to report other than they did get their approvals for their APFO exemptions last week. So they are good to go with everything.
Okay. We'll do a roll call. Commissioner Sparati.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Strawson.
Commissioner Strawson, no questions, thank you.
Commissioner Manalis.
Commissioner Manalis, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Beatty.
Commissioner Beatty, no questions. Thank you.
And Alderman Russell.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. So item B is the annual report, and I did not see, did we miss that? Did I miss seeing that?
We were providing the annual report just digitally to save on some printing, as there's no kind of official review of it. It's more as an informational item. So that should be all online. I don't have any prepared comments on it, except for those of you who might not be familiar with the annual report. It is kind of the summary of all of our activity that is conducted across the planning department. So some of the things that this commission doesn't necessarily see that we deal with in terms of historic preservation applications or other administrative functions that the city planning department serves. This is prepared and provided to the state of Maryland annually. So it's a good way to toot our own horns about all the work we've done and to kind of look back and see what we've achieved and to publish that for the community as well, to make them aware.
So on Monday, will you actually summarize some of the findings? And it says that item B is the presentation of the annual report.
We can cover some of the details, kind of the highlights of it.
And there's no action.
Correct.
Okay. Let me, I can see all of you. Are there any other questions? Okay. All right. We'll go to C, which is Wren Quarter Architectural Review, and that's Pam. So does that mean it's you, Gabrielle?
That it does. So we did provide kind of summary on the last page of your staff report of just the responses that the applicant provided to the discussions we had at the workshop. There is the request for the modification for the smaller windows on the street-facing facades. There also was some discussion about the windows on the side of the Hadley and Alec models, and they have added some additional windows to the sides of those units. They discussed the Carlton Townhouse model with the board and batten feature, addressing the comments we had there. And we also did provide, the applicant provided the multifamily buildings. So at the workshop, we discussed the flat roof townhouses and how they look kind of industrial as to some of the other model types. And they discussed the relationship of that with kind of the core of their development, which is going to include some non-residential along Monocacy Boulevard, but then also the multifamily buildings, which will have some first floor different uses, and how they were trying to create a transition from that kind of more dense urban vibe to some of the more traditional models. And that's so to provide you some context to look at those in. And then lastly, there's a proposal to have detached garages on a lot type that it's on Constellation Lane. It's the Browlin model that the approved detail on the site plan contemplates an attached garage. And they are actually, I'm sorry, reverse. The model on the plan contemplates a detached garage, and they want to attach it all to the structure to have one integrated unit with the garage on those units. So they're going to have to revise the site plan detail to reflect the architecture you see before we can approve that. But with the flexibility that they created with their setbacks and all the building layout plans themselves, they should be able to incorporate that without having to modify setbacks or come back to the commission to do that. So just in terms of our recommendations, we have the one on the smaller windows, and then the the approval of the architecturals by themselves. And we actually were recommending that they remove that elevation and revise the plan, and then would be able to come back for that elevation if it's something that they want. And that's the integrated the integrated garage.
Okay, we'll take a roll call. Commissioner Strassen,
Commissioner Strawson, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Manalis,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Beatty,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Sparati,
No questions, thank you.
Alderman Russell.
No questions, thank you.
So Gabrielle, I am 99% sure that I follow that last about the revision of the plan. So you're saying as far as approving the architectural review, when you were first talking about it, I thought you were talking about the site plan, but we've already approved the site plan. Is that correct?
Correct. And the
Right.
site plan shows the
Right.
design to have
Yeah.
the detached garage, and now you have an architecture on your packet which is showing an integrated or attached garage for those units. And until we revise the site plan, we don't want to
That's
approve that architecture.
okay. So if they include this, they'll have to come back with us with a revised site plan. Will they also have to revise the architectural review or just the site plan then?
Correct. They would.
Okay.
So at
that's
this
what I
point, we're
thought.
just recommending that since they don't have approval for that unit type, that we don't want to approve it now if they
Okay.
want to move forward with these
That's what.
these elevations.
Okay. That's what I thought. So thank you for confirming that. All right. That was item C. So item D is also an architectural review, and this is another one for Kellerton.
Yes.
We've had a few of
And
these. Yeah.
this was just the additional single family. Gather my things. This was just the additional single family dwelling, and we didn't really have much discussion. We've seen a lot of their products. So there were no follow-up items, and basically the packet you have in front of you is what you saw at workshop, and we have no conditions of approval.
Okay. We will do a roll call. Commissioner Manalis,
Commissioner Manalis, no questions, thank you.
Commissioner Beatty,
Commissioner Beatty, no questions, thanks.
Commissioner Sparati,
Commissioner Sprati, no questions, thank you.
Commissioner Strassen,
Commissioner Strawson, I have no questions.
and Alderman Russell.
No, ma'am, thank you.
All right, moving right along. Number E, West Park Village, and our third architectural review.
So with this, on the last page, we did provide some additional follow-up from the workshop discussion. The applicant has addressed some of the administrative comments we had. They also confirmed that all of the the street-facing windows do meet the dimensional standard requirements, the ratios required in the code, so they don't need a modification for any smaller windows that are on street-facing facades. They did respond by adding some additional windows on the side elevation of the Salinger, and in addition to incorporating the porticos on the Clarendon townhouse model, and that's related to the one condition of approval we have. They could not add the portico in a situation where they had the big bay window on the second floor, obviously, because you'd be hitting up against each other. The condition that we have is just that they added a nice sheet to show where they were going to put all these wonderful porticos, but they left all of the stuff that didn't show it. So we just want a cleaned up architectural package, so there's no question about what's going to be constructed, to remove any that don't correspond to what they're actually proposing. And then with regards to a question was raised, I think Commissioner Strawson had about the high visibility locations. This project actually didn't have a requirement for a specific high visibility element. They complied with standard elements that are listed in kind of the menu in section 604. Some developments we've had have supplemented that menu with an item regarding high visibility and trying to really showcase certain locations and make them more prominent. So that does not specifically apply to this project. However, the applicant did respond by providing an idea of their landscaping plan to show, how they intend to treat kind of those prominent intersections where, there would be enhanced visibility. And that's all I had.
Okay, well, we will take a roll call. Commissioner Beatty,
Commissioner Beatty, no questions, thanks.
Commissioner Sparati,
Commissioner Sparati, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Strawson,
Commissioner Strawson, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Manalis,
No questions, thank you.
and Alderman Russell.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. And I don't either. Moving right along. Item F, withdrawn. Okay. Item G is the final site plan for Canterbury Station.
If we could touch on item F just quickly as point of interest, and I want to address at the hearing as well. So this zoning map amendment was continued from July, I believe, to September. It was a 60-day continuance. The city has in effect a ordinance that was adopted relative to certain land use decisions and the timing of elections, so as to avoid the appearance of any conflicts of interest or anyone making important land use decisions around an election period. The Planning Commission and the mayor and board cannot consider individual rezonings during the period of time beginning the day before the primary election, which is coming up on next week. So the day before is Monday, and the day after the inauguration. So everything kind of has to hold in terms of individual rezoning applications. We'll be discussing a historic preservation overlay at the workshop coming up. That is not subject to that resolution, so that's okay to discuss. But individual changes for base zoning cannot be discussed during that period. A question was raised about the applicant's ability to withdraw because we've had the first of 2 hearings, and we're still looking at that question. But the bottom line is that whether this application ends up being formally withdrawn or not, the Planning Commission could not hold the second hearing on Monday night. That would have to wait until the inauguration's in December. I don't recall the specific date, but it would have to be heard at the December hearing because that would fall after the inauguration. So I do want to address that at the public hearing, basically say what I just said here, just in that format as well, that at this point, the reason we are not considering this item on Monday is more so for the purposes of the election as to a formal withdrawal at this point.
Is one of the questions you are considering if you're going to have to come back and do the first hearing again?
Or come back in December and have the second hearing is the
Right.
question. Does the application need to continue forward because the first hearing occurred? And so now we need to continue the discussion, not continue like put on hold. Or does the applicant have the ability to withdraw it at this point?
And if it's continued after so much time, would there have to be another 2 hearings, or can there only be 1?
There would only have to be 1. We would, because this is like a freeze now. We're in just kind of this suspended animation period where we just can't do anything with it. So if the application cannot be formally withdrawn, it would have its second of 2 hearings after the inauguration.
Anybody have any questions on this?
I do. Does the applicant wish to have it withdrawn? Or, I mean, when the time period is over, do they want to move forward with it?
They requested to withdraw it.
They requested to withdraw it. Okay. Huh, okay, thank you.
So we'll.
Yeah, Alderman Russell, yeah.
what was the rationale for their desire to withdraw? Is it just the timing, logistics, or is there a change of heart?
I believe that they do not intend to move forward with it. They are looking at other alternatives.
Okay, thank you.
So it just, that, all the explanation that you gave us was all about the election, yet the withdrawn sounds like it has nothing to do with the election.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Alderman Russell, you have a look on your face.
No, so just to clarify, the timing of rezonings, we actually contracted it because it was a broader period of time, but it's just to make sure that nobody running for office is doing anything that which they shouldn't be doing anyway. But yeah, it's not tied. The withdrawal is not tied to the election.
If I'm hearing you right, Alderman Russell, that it would not have shown as withdrawn, it would have shown as help on hold or something. And that would have probably come from the planning staff saying that we can't hold this tonight. It will have to be after the election because of the election,
It's
right?
just, it's adherence with our city
Right,
ordinance.
right,
Yeah,
right.
That's the reason, yeah.
Right. It would just show up in a different way. It would not be a withdrawn. Okay. All right. Item G, final site plan for Canterbury Station.
Correct. This was the application we discussed at the workshop where they are changing some of their phasing requirements for the connection to the school. Frederick County Public Schools indicated they did not want that connection made at this time. There have not been any substantive changes to the plan since the workshop, and we just have 3 technical conditions of approval that we're recommending.
Okay. We will do a roll call. Commissioner Sparati.
Commissioner Sparati, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Strawson.
Commissioner Strauss, I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Manalis.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Beatty.
Commissioner Beatty, I have no questions.
And Alderman Russell.
No questions, thanks.
Okay, I'm good too. So, moving along. Number H. We have H and I are both for Pine Avenue Maintenance Complex renovations.
Correct. So the request in front of you is for the site plan as well as a couple of modifications. I do want to note that the applicant's modification request letter includes 3 modifications. After they submitted it and we reviewed the plan and talked further with the applicant, they actually do not need the modification to the dumpster screening. They responded to the comment we had to add some landscaping and added some shrubbery around it. So now the dumpster has 3-side year-round landscaping on 3 sides. And so they actually meet the criteria and don't have to request that modification. So it's just the modification for the parking lot screening and then for the parking lot lighting spillover that you have to consider in addition to the site plan. So there's a little bit of a conflict in their request letter that you have. You can ignore the modification for the dumpster screening because they do comply with that and covered in the staff report. And the big issue with this, obviously, is we're not recommending approval of the final site plan itself because of the issues we discussed at the workshop relative to the construction of 5th Street and having frontage that complies with our requirements for section 601 and 309. We did provide some additional backup in terms of some of the deed research. The applicant also had in their response letter statements regarding the deed research and the right of way that they believe is available or not available. So we will, if there are questions regarding that, Scott Helgeson with the engineering department's been working with our city surveyor to compile a lot of research on that side. So if there are questions regarding some of that new information, those can be discussed on Monday. And I don't think I have any other notes to make on the, I'm sorry, on the site plan itself. The other criteria that we found was not met as part of our request, recommendation against the project was performance standards. So this is zoned institutional. We don't have the standard bulk and dimensional setbacks, maximum building heights that you have in other zoning districts. Instead, you have those performance standards, one of which is compliance with the urban design criteria, which are in section 604. We had commented at the workshop that their building orientation element that they were suggesting they complied with wasn't met because because Fifth Street wasn't there, and the building has to be oriented towards a street, and that the distance of the sidewalk from Fifth Street, should it be there, to their building was greater than allowed under the code. Their response was that the building is actually oriented towards Church Street, where they do have frontage, but we run into the same issue of the distance between the street and the building being greater than allowed by the code. So those were the two grounds under which we were not supporting the application, and those are all laid out in the staff report. Nothing different than what's in the report. And then I can quickly touch on the forest conservation while I'm talking. They are requesting a fee in lieu of payment for the entire requirement, which is 0.40 acres. That fee is about $5,000. They don't have any environmentally sensitive priority planting areas on the site. It is mostly impervious, so we would support that payment in this case. And that is all I have.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Commissioner Strawson.
Commissioner Strawson, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Manalis.
Commissioner Morales, no questions.
Commissioner Beatty.
Commissioner Beatty, no questions, thanks.
Commissioner Sparati.
Commissioner Sparati, no questions.
Alderman Russell.
I guess a process question. If the site plan were not to be approved, then does the forest conservation piece move forward anyway?
The forest conservation plan is a byproduct of the site plan application. So if the site plan were not approved, I would recommend that we take action on the forest conservation plan. It is in front of us. We could approve it, but it really won't have any bearing because the application won't move forward. But I think we need to take action on it in one sense.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you for asking that question. I had a similar one, but that takes care of my process question. So I don't have any questions on that. All right. So that takes us to item J, the comprehensive plan. Hi, Brandon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brandon Mark with Community Planning. Not too much to report on as far as updates. Just two small updates. The first is Alderman Russell, you had questioned the legibility of a note on the roadway classification map. We moved that note over into the margin of the map. We may look to put that so it's even more legible into the plan. That's the only update on the roadway classification map. Section 305 has 10 decision-making requirements for comprehensive plan amendments and map amendments. They're not really applicable to this. They are applicable, but They're more geared towards site-specific request or applicant-driven requests. So staff did provide an opinion on those 10 points. Nothing really stood out that would make this request not compliant with those criteria. That's all I have for this. Everything's pretty straightforward.
Okay. We'll do, oh, sorry about that. We will do a roll call. Commissioner Manalis,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Beatty,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Sparati,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Strawson,
Mr. Strawson, I have no questions. Thank you.
Alderman Russell.
Just to be clear, this entire plan goes into effect October 1st. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we should all start thinking about transitioning in our minds to compatibility with the 2020 comp plan. Okay, thank you.
Great point. Okay. And Brandon, we are giving, sorry, we're giving a recommendation to the mayor and board. I want to look at the last.
You are,
Page
but
here.
this is the
Yeah,
first
the first of two.
required.
Exactly. Okay. All right. And then after that, we give a recommendation and then it goes to the mayor and board. Okay. Terrific. All right. So that concludes our agenda. I can see everyone. Is there anything else? Any other comments, questions? All right. Terrific. Well, it's a beautiful day, a beautiful weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday. The meeting is adjourned.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.